Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan, that's Dan, and we are today going to be covering the season finale of Legends of Tomorrow Season 6, Episode 15. So this is the second part of the two-part finale. This one I feel like stands on its own a little more. It has the whole cast here. I think I gave a lot of crap to last week's episode, but I like this one. Despite
really?
I thought it was fun just because, you know, all of my gripes last week about the plot not really making any sense, they're still there, but there was enough like fun in this episode, and once you like decide to just accept the fact that this plot doesn't make any sense, then it's like, all right, well, ignore that. Like if you want to know all of my complaints about that, go watch last week's discussion. But well, what did you think? Have we reversed? It seems like maybe you don't like this episode.
I mean, it wasn't my favorite. I felt like a lot of it was just kind of like, okay, are we actually going to get a show? Or is it just going to be like a little fun thing all about this wedding? And it turned out to just be a fun thing about the wedding. And I think it was just a little too focused on that I feel like I was also like thinking of other questions in the back of my mind of like, wait, what are they going to do with all these things? How are they going to go through this? And then they're just like, no, but the power of love and mushrooms. Like,
Yup.
I mean, overall in Legends fashion, it worked. In Legends fashion, like it made sense. They did a good job with that. I really liked the tiny little eggs, or what the mixed babies look like.
Yeah.
The little
they
squid
were great.
heads.
They were so cute. I love
those
them.
things were awesome. I do like kind of what they did with Kayla. It's sad that Kayla and Mick are going to be gone. I believe they're leaving the show. Constantine, the character, is gone. I'm not even going to try and guess what's going to happen there, because I heard the actor's staying, but not the character, but I don't know how they would ever do that. But then again, we're talking about Legends where they've had like one person turn into three different people. So,
Right.
Overall, it wasn't my favorite episode, but it also wasn't my least favorite. So probably middle of the road kind of thing for me. So not my favorite finale. I feel like there were better episodes throughout this season that I enjoyed more. But yeah, I mean, decent ending. I don't know where they're gonna lead into the next season, but decent ending overall for this one.
There's a we'll talk about the kind of stinger at the end in a little bit, but I think I mostly agree with you. This episode, it was weird because there were a lot of moments in it where there was what seemed like setup for a joke, and then they just delivered like a serious line instead.
Yeah.
Which I thought was strange for this show, but for the like last few episodes here, that it has been kind of the mantra is that it's very plot based. But there were some moments like I enjoyed the wedding when they decided. It really does just seem like the writers ran out of ideas and they didn't really know what to do, and they were like, okay, what haven't we finished up? Like, what loose end haven't we tied? And that was the wedding. And I almost like, I feel like maybe they thought at some point that this was going to be the series finale, because they did tie up so much stuff, and like talking about the stinger at the end,
they definitely finished this up in a way of like, we could fully end here if we wanted to,
right?
And then the other drive-by bombing.
And then their ship blows up. After cutting away from that, and then they cut back, and I was like, when they showed that establishing shot of the ship as them walking towards them, I was like, oh, they're gonna blow the ship up, and then they did, and I was like, oh, okay, that's funny, and then they did, and I was like, oh, okay. But it was a roller coaster of emotions there.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think middle of the road is a very good descriptor here of kind of this whole season too, because this season like had some pretty good episodes, but as we talked, like as evidenced by our discussions of the first like the first half of this season really was us just kind of being like, this was fine, hope it gets better, and it was just that like over and over and over again. And I think for a little bit there it was pretty good when they were just doing like the standalone just comedy
when they had
focused
finished
episodes.
up with the bishop
Right
with the
after Bishop
stuff.
was gone, it got a little
Yeah.
better, and then he came back and it got worse. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about this finale.
I feel like one thing that bothered me about this finale was the whole season has been based on aliens and the fact that Bishop was trying to engineer the perfect human. But I feel like we got so little on the alien race that was invading at the end that it didn't feel as impactful. Like, I feel like, okay, cool, we saw that they were able to do some dangerous things back on when they first ran into Sarah. I almost called her Kate for some reason. When they ran into Sarah, and like that's the only time you really saw that species of alien. And then like you occasionally got notes of one of them going, oh wow, we don't try and kill them, we just try to escape. And like I feel like they didn't have enough oomph to them. Like it didn't feel as threatening, I guess would be a better way of saying. Like they didn't feel like there were as many stakes being held at the end. But I don't know. Think that's kind of me being a little nitpicky, but I do kind of wish one of those aliens was also one of the ones that landed on Earth so that we could see how the team handled them and that the team was aware they could not handle this alien. Like if we got something like that, I feel like it would have felt more like a bigger deal.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, oh no, Skittle, like little pods are raining from the sky, and now there's this alien that moves so fast that half the time they're just a blur.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think the writers were just pulling stuff from earlier in the season to try to make some kind of satisfying conclusion, but they didn't do enough legwork to actually make it feel that way, because it is just like when they first showed up, I was like, wait, we've seen these guys before, but I didn't remember where from. And eventually I was like, oh, right, they're the ones that were on the plane. I think it was when Kayla was like, they almost killed me. I was like, oh, it's those guys. But I agree. It was felt very rushed. The plot of this entire season felt very rushed and like scrapped together. Like to the point of like when they quickly decide that they're going to get a bishop from the past to heal Spooner, and then when she comes to, suddenly she can swap people's powers, which is a really cool idea, but it just kind of came out of nowhere.
It definitely came out of nowhere. And the whole time traveling to get a younger version, and then you start thinking at it and you're like, there are so many other time traveling opportunities that you could have done that probably would have been more effective than grabbing a younger bishop. Like, I don't know, going back and stopping him from poisoning John, but that's a different
That's the
thing
problem
in
with
itself.
time travel, man, is like this whole episode hinges on they have 4 hours until darkness, and that's when the aliens are going to come out of their pods. But they're time travelers. Couldn't they just go sit in limbo in their ship for as long as they want? Like that's the issue with that's why you can't treat time travel as serious unless you have really, really specific rules that you never deviate from, which is impossible because it's time travel. So, but that's this show works when they say screw it and they just do whatever they want.
Or if like when one of the characters even makes a comment of, wait, why don't we just go back in time before they did that? Because like that's when the Legends does their standard stuff, is when they say the same questions we're asking, and then half the time the other guy's like, I don't know, but let's do this anyway.
I don't know, moving on.
I'm like, that works.
Yeah, I'm sure that would get incredibly frustrating after a while if that kept happening. But like even was it earlier this season? I think so. Yeah, in the beginning of the season when they went back to when Sarah was kidnapped, and that was how
they tried to stop it.
Yeah, that was a fun moment because it was like, yeah, obviously they would go and do that. That's a last resort because they know it could damage the timeline. But they eventually did that, and that was very satisfying to see, because otherwise people would just be yelling at their screens. Like, why not at least talk about that option? Like, give me a reason why they can't do something as simple as going back before the bad thing happens.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. This episode didn't frustrate me. I think I was more frustrated last week when, you know, it was revealed that the plot hinged on something that just doesn't make any sense in this universe. And they continued to do that here, where, like, the alien, like you said last week, like, why didn't they just say that the Fountain of Imperium was specifically protecting against alien invasions brought upon by Bishop or the Zagarons or whatever? But it was all aliens, which just doesn't make any sense if you put the show in the context of where it came from. But anyway, I don't know. Do we want to quickly talk about next season? And because it starts pretty soon, I don't know much about it, but
I know nothing about it. So if you have information you want to,
I don't. Other than it starts soon.
Oh, well, I mean, you know what? With them stuck in what, the 20s?
1925.
Yeah. Okay. So with them stuck in 1925, I don't know what they're gonna do.
Well, the last time they were stranded in a different time, they just went to Constantine's house. So.
And they do have the key to that. So.
Right.
Or I assume that's the key.
That's what that key is. Yeah. Because the loose threads we have is Zari has some old key, and they don't have a ship. A different wave rider blew up their wave rider.
Okay, that was another wave rider.
I'm pretty sure it was.
It looked like it, but I was like, wait, how does that work? I am gonna laugh if next season ends with them flying back and bombing the wave rider.
Yeah.
Like something like that. If that's what it is, like they went back in time to stop them because they're like, just don't do this.
That was kind of my thought, is that it's, you know, that because the stinger of Sarah being like sucked up into the ship, that was at the end of season 5, led directly into season 6. So I would not be surprised if like season 7 opens with like seeing the legends that are in that wave rider come and bomb that one, and then we like you know, we go back to see why that happened. But I don't know who's maybe Rip Hunter is on that version of the Wave Rider, and it's a whole different crew.
I'm gonna just say I would love, and I think this would be hilarious, and it would never actually happen, but I would love if it was the main team. They flew in, they bombed it, they made one comment of like something about like, oh god, that was a terrible timeline, something like that, and they never touch it again, and they just go on a different season as if none of that ever happened. And they're all on the Wave Rider, and so they're just doing other stuff.
I don't think this season was that bad.
I just think that would be like such a funny,
Really funny.
like Legends joke to just be like, haha, all right, other things.
Like referring to, what is it, season 4 of Community as the gas leak year. They just talk about it. Like, that's the one something was wrong with us that year, because it was the one everyone hated. That would be fun. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done something like that with season 1. Since they're so far removed from it now. Probably most people who are watching the show now haven't even seen season 1.
I hope for their sake they haven't.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess. It's fun. Season 2 is a lot more fun with the context of season 1, though, because they do make some of those jokes in season 2, I think. But yeah, I think the last thing to mention is that unfortunately this will be the last discussion we will have on Legends. You know, it is what it is. Y'all don't watch this enough, so yeah, people don't watch.
Those of you that are here, you're awesome. It's those other ones.
Yeah, you guys
that
are great.
Here.
I read the comments, and y'all seem to love Legends just as much as we do. But you know, go watch the show more, and maybe it'll blow up, and it'll warrant us coming back to discuss season 7. I'm sure we can come back for like a mid-season thing, and we'll just talk about
something like that. Do them in batches.
Yeah. But as far as like weekly reviews, as we have been doing, they just don't perform well enough on the channel. So this will be the last one. But it coincided with the end of the season, so that's good. Supergirl's getting chopped off in the middle, but I don't think anyone cares about that. So anyway, and Any last words to say before we stop talking about Legends forever? Not forever.
No, I mean, show's still great. This wasn't one of the ones that ended, and I'm like, wow, now I hate this show now. So I'm glad that didn't happen. So
perfectly average, good setup for the next season. I think that's all we can ask for. All right, well, this has been Absolutely Marvel in DC. I'm Dylan, that's Dan. And stay tuned for something else. We'll see. See y'all later.
guys.